The kid was playing basketball in the middle of a downpour when his world collapsed. He dropped his inhaler on the ground, but before he could take a breath, the cruelty began. They stomped on his pride. They threw him to the ground and laughed at his height while he begged for his medicine. One of the idiots even had the nerve to ask if they should just leave the poor kid there, stranded in the middle of nowhere. The heartless blonde shrugged and told the group to get lost. Alone and abandoned in the storm, the boy saw a shadow appear. A tall man in a suit showed up as if he'd risen straight from the ground. Beneath lightning and thunder, the stranger looked at the kid and spoke the truth. What others think means nothing. What matters is the will to never give up. The stranger set a sinister vial on the ground. The liquid glowed and seemed alive. He admitted he'd been chasing that formula for ages and didn't even know if it would really work. The boy, 15 years old with a chest full of bitterness, heard that the potion was from ancient times, once used to summon the power of the gods. The man warned that the secret lay in what the kid carried inside. If the desire was real, the magic would happen. Tired of being humiliated, the boy downed the vial without a second thought. The transformation was a nightmare. The kid's veins bulged, glowing electric blue. His body looked ready to explode, his skin burning as he writhed in the mud. The pain was unreal, soul-ripping, but he wouldn't back down. He wanted that hell of being bullied to end right there. The scream he let out tore through the sky. His eyes turned into pure light. Overwhelmed by brutal energy, he dug his nails into the asphalt, ripping the ground apart as power spilled from his mouth. Time flew by, and 2 months later, the city came to a halt. They were opening the largest basketball temple in Asia, a massive complex spanning 65 hectares, built to hold an endless crowd. It was the perfect stage for the story of Basketball City. Jae-yu and his blonde friend Shinrun were there in the middle of the chaos. Addicted to attention, Shinrun was live to thousands of followers, showing every corner of the complex and promising a historic exhibition match. He begged for likes and comments, struggling to keep the phone steady as the stream shook. Shinrun tried to shove the phone at Jae-yu to help with the filming, complaining that it was too hard to record alone, but Jae-yu was in another world, completely ignoring him. When the blonde insisted, Jae-yu shut it down, saying there was no way he could appear on camera like that. Impatient, Shinrun just wanted him to hold the phone without ruining the angle, warning that the audience was about to blow up today. His audience was a joke. There weren't even 10 viewers, most of them relatives or friends watching out of pity. The blonde snapped at his best friend, furious over the lack of support, but Jae-yu killed the mood instantly. He was blunt. "Stop the drama. Your arm is broken." The guy deflated, apologized, and tried to bribe his buddy by promising a feast after the game. The other didn't waste time and ordered chow han stew and a well-done fish. They headed to the arena with the tension rising. The stadium was packed. Shinran tried to move freely, but his friend wouldn't stop sticking close. At the center of it all, the host fired up the crowd, promising a live massacre of talent. Sinan was stunned by the sea of people. The host kept talking. The two teams facing off were the elite of the elite, the absolute top of national basketball. The players hit the court, and the first shot was a punch to the gut, flawless. Nothing but stars. Sinan stayed glued to his phone, streaming every play to the few viewers watching, while he and his friend lost their minds over the level of competition. The commentator explained that every 5 years there's a sacred vote to choose the 108 gods of basketball. These players stand at the top of the world, impossible mountains for any ordinary athlete to climb. Then, the legend appeared, Lo Fei, the flying hero, ranked number 38. He showed up clowning around, irritating his opponents, but his team didn't care. It was a day for spectacle. The commentator started shouting when Lo Fei blasted down the court at an unreal speed. His jump seemed to defy gravity. He hung in the air forever before coming down hard. The host nearly lost his voice describing the monstrous dunk about to happen. It was Lo Fei's signature move, and no one could look away.
He was known as the King of Rebounds, a giant who needed no momentum to dominate the paint. The ball was already at the rim, and Lo Fei needed a touch to secure the points. The stadium was ready to erupt. Then, the impossible happened. Out of nowhere, a complete unknown appeared midair and snatched the ball from Lo Fei's hands with humiliating ease. The intruder wasn't even wearing a uniform. He came out of nowhere, stole the spotlight, and didn't even think about giving the ball back. Shinran and his friend froze, speechless, watching the madness. The stranger even shoved the player, killing any chance of a response. The crowd turned to stone. No one blinked. The commentator lost it on the mic, unsure if this was part of the show or a real attack. The block was clean and brutal. Shinran screamed into the stream, asking if the viewers had seen that guy's speed. The invader landed with the ball, stared down Lo Fei with disgusting mockery, wiped his nose, and dismissed the athlete's king title. Then he dropped the acid taunt. "Is that all you've got?" The player's blood boiled. The whole team rushed him, seething with rage, demanding to know who the maniac was and whether the organizers had broken the contract with that circus. The stranger closed his eyes, gave a cynical smile, and said no one had sent him. He introduced himself as Jason Lee.
Spinning the ball on his finger like a toy, Jason got straight to the point. He was there only to put those idiots who thought they were stars in their place. His stare was pure hatred. But he didn't stop there. Jason hurled a vicious insult, shouting to the entire arena that Asians had no dignity to even touch a basketball. The bastard challenged 10 of the best stars present to a real lesson. The gym turned into a boiling cauldron, the crowd howling with rage and demanding the stars put that arrogant guy where he belonged. The tension hit its peak. Half the stadium wanted Jason Lee's blood, while the other half screamed for him to be kicked out. It wasn't just the people there. Every bar and street corner in the area watched the broadcast with clenched teeth. The commentator didn't hold back. The guy had managed to become the nation's #1 enemy in minutes. Jason's audacity in challenging all the stars at once made Sinan foam with anger. He snarled at the camera that the cocky foreigner was just chasing easy fame, but Jae-yu, eyes locked on the court, didn't buy it. He felt there was more to it. When the guards moved in to drag Jason Lee out, he didn't flinch. With a half smile, he pointed to the ceiling. The sound of rotors slicing the air froze everyone. It wasn't a helicopter. 4 heavy drones appeared overhead, carrying a massive structure suspended by black cables. The contraption descended slowly, and when it touched the ground, jaws dropped. It was a transparent container, filled to the brim with solid gold bars. Lo Fei and the other players were hypnotized by the shine of that fortune. Jason Lee kicked the case and named the price of the game. 100 gold bars, millions of dollars in a straight bet. If he lost, the treasure was theirs. So what is it? Fear bigger than greed? He taunted, sizing the stars up and down. Humiliation became fuel. The stars lined up in front of the arrogant man. The challenge was accepted, but the cost of defeat was a nightmare. Whoever lost would have to quit basketball for 5 long years. For a pro, that's the same as burying a career alive. The circus moved to the outdoor court, now street ball style, one-on-one. 10,000 people packed the stands to watch the reckoning. Sinan, locking in the best angle for his phone, kept begging for likes and swearing Jason Lee was pure bluff. But Jae-yu, sensing the sinister energy radiating from the intruder, delivered the verdict. The guy wasn't pretending to be strong, he was real danger. Jason Lee started dribbling with outrageous contempt. Lo Fei, boiling with rage, stuck to him, going for the steal. The flying hero growled that the foreigner's lucky streak ended there, and his arrogance would cost him. To the star, that earlier block had been a fluke. Now it would be different.
Jason Lee didn't even blink. With an icy look, he said, "Then come see what I'm made of." The game started, and what followed was a massacre. Jason took off at a speed so insane it looked like he left a trail of light behind him, his eyes glowing like embers. Lu Fei tried to cut him off but was tossed aside like a rag doll. The star went into shock. He twisted his body trying to catch Jason's trail, stretched his arm in desperation to touch the ball, but grabbed nothing but air. Jason Lee was already airborne, flying toward the rim. As his opponent fell into emptiness, Jason hammered the ball down with brutal force. The stadium fell silent. Jayu and the masses watching through live streams froze with their fingers on the screen, unable to believe what they had just seen. Those who couldn't get into the complex crowded the squares, eyes glued to giant screens across the cities, watching the replay of that humiliation on loop. Hanging from the rim with one hand, Jason looked over his shoulder at the fallen opponent and mocked. Still think it was luck? Lu Fei, his pride shattered to pieces, could only grind his teeth in silence, tasting bitter fury. The other stars felt a chill down their spines. The commentator, his voice echoing everywhere, stated the obvious. Jason Lee was eating the pros alive. He had already crushed 2 stars in a row and showed not a single drop of sweat or fatigue. He looked like a machine, and maybe he really was. Far from there, parked at a strategic point in the city, a suspicious trailer buzzed with high-tech equipment. A satellite dish captured every move on the court. Inside, screens showed that Test Subject 008 had perfect vital signs. Even after 2 on-court massacres, his stamina hadn't dropped at all. The lead scientist analyzed the data coldly. Synthetic biological tissue at 35% compatibility, system stable. The order came from above, blunt and cruel. Increase kinetic output to 60%. The technician hesitated, knowing the risk, but complied. The monster on the court was about to become even more dangerous. The command inside the trailer was direct. Crank that thing up, that's what the experiment is for. The man with glasses, cold as ice, reminded them it hadn't been easy to gather 10 basketball legends as lab rats, and victory was mandatory. Without hesitation, the scientist slammed the keyboard and pushed kinetic output to 60%. On the court, the command echoed through Jason Lee's invisible earpiece. He didn't flinch. "Bring it on. I can take it," he growled at the suits in the control room. The reaction hit like a gut punch. A brutal electric surge fried every nerve in his body. Jason clenched his teeth and fists so hard, his joints cracked. His blood seemed to boil, veins bulged, throbbing in a bizarre purple hue as a sinister turquoise aura began leaking from his pores.
From the stands, Jayu felt the air grow heavy. The guy's body was changing. His muscles swelled as if they might explode at any second. From a distance, it looked like a heart attack. Jason shook violently, fighting not to collapse in front of everyone. Inside the trailer, panic broke out. His vitals are going crazy. His body is rejecting the implant. He's going to die, one technician shouted. The order came to abort everything and extract the subject before anyone discovered the forbidden tech inside him. But Jason Lee yelled into the comms, telling everyone to shut up. He was going all the way. The opponent, Clueless, started mocking him. "Talking to yourself, maniac? You gonna evolve like a Pokemon now?" Jason didn't waste a word. He opened his mouth and thick, hot steam poured out, like a boiler about to blow. The monitor in the trailer stabilized. The monster had mastered the load. Lo Fi, already impatient, shouted, asking if he was going to quit or keep up the circus. Jason Lee just flashed a macabre smile and said, "Your turn to attack." Lightning began snapping across Jason's body. He spun into an electric blur, and before Lo Fi could even blink, the ball vanished from the star's hands. The flying hero only had time to let out a scream of terror, frozen in place, with no idea what had just hit him. Where did the guy go? No one saw a trail. In the blink of an eye, Jason Lee stole the ball and took off. His feet barely touched the ground. It was otherworldly speed, pure technological abuse. He launched, grabbed the rim with fury, and boom, another point on the board. The opponent stood there stunned, trying to grasp what dimension the game had entered. Lo Fi couldn't even close his mouth from shock. It was a lightning strike. No time to defend, no time to react, just clean defeat. The rest of the stars were shaking. Fear spread across the bench, while the crowd, glued to the big screens, couldn't believe what the announcer was yelling. Incredible, inhuman speed. Shinran, his camera trembling, admitted to his followers that even his eyes couldn't track the dunk. The young streamer turned to the side, shaken, asking if a normal human could do that. That's when he panicked again. Where was Ju? His friend had vanished. He looked around, nervous, thinking his buddy had run to the bathroom at the worst possible moment. On the court, the next victim tried to sound smart, talking tactics and strategy, but Jason Lee wasn't interested. He ran through them one by one, crushing the stars with massive dunks. Meanwhile, in the trailer, the data kept climbing. With kinetic output maxed out, synchronization was locked at 43%, even as the subject's body held up. The long-haired scientist delivered the verdict: total success, and the data had to be sent to headquarters.
The order came over the radio. "Stop, Jason. Rate for extraction." But the kid was possessed. "This isn't over," he shouted. He dropped another pro and stared down at the man on the floor, asking if they were going to quit or keep embarrassing themselves. The defeated player, hollow-eyed, could only ask how such ability was even possible. Jason Lee pointed at the gold and asked, "Who's next?" But the mood shifted. The stars were exhausted, drenched in sweat, their eyes filled with fear and rage. No one wanted any more of that monster. The stadium fell into absolute silence. The host summed it up. The storm had been a challenge that swept away the basketball elite. Those stuck outside the gates, squeezed in just to catch a glimpse, left awed and terrified. The commentator, in a dark tone, closed it out. The reign of the 10 stars had gone up in smoke. The massacre was complete. Alone, Jason Lee wiped the floor with the 10 greatest legends in the country. His strength and leap were beyond comprehension. No one could even process what they'd seen. With a cynical smile, he rubbed salt in the wound and reminded them of the bet: 5 years on ice, banned from any court. Panic set in. The athletes went pale, and one of them snapped, shouting that no one could keep that pace without being drugged to the gills. "You're on something," he yelled, grasping for an excuse for the humiliation. Jason Lee snapped back, telling him to accept defeat instead of whining. But knowing no one trusted him, he doubled down. "You know what? Anyone who wants it can come. Whoever beats me takes all the gold right now." The stadium nearly collapsed. The commentator called Jason completely insane for taking on thousands at once, and the crowd answered. A horde of huge, furious men flooded the court, eager to break the intruder in half. From the stands, Shinran was nearly in tears with rage over his broken arm. He wanted nothing more than to jump in and teach the mysterious guy a lesson. As the brutes surrounded Jason, he just mocked them. "Come all at once. No need to take turns." "Shut up, arrogant punk. I'll teach you what your parents didn't," one of the newcomers roared. Jason let out a small, macabre laugh and told them to stop barking and start playing. Inside the trailer, it was war. The bald scientist was losing it, yelling to shut the experiment down because Jason had gone off script. But his long-haired colleague, with an unhinged look in his eyes, blocked the order. He wanted to see the chaos unfold. "Let's see how far this prototype can go," he said with a sinister smile.
The game restarted, and it was the same slaughter. Jason Lee owned the ball, the court, and the fate of anyone who crossed his path. They tried to trap him, steal from him, body him, but it was like trying to grab a hurricane with bare hands. He scored again and again, humiliating amateurs and pros alike. A bald guy in a green shirt tried the block of his life, but the ball sailed right over him like he didn't exist. When the ball bounced on the court one last time, Jason Lee looked at the beaten crowd and delivered the final blow. Laughing in everyone's face, he called his opponents biological trash. "Is that all you are? Trash?" he taunted, as the stadium boiled with rage and helplessness. The court was a powder keg. Everyone wanted a piece of Jason Lee, whose blood was still boiling.
But the mocking smile vanished from the foreigner's face when a hoarse voice cut through the chaos. An elderly man, trembling and barely able to stand, stepped into the paint and challenged the monster. Jason Lee burst out laughing. To him, the old man was just another obstacle. "Go to sleep, Grandpa. You can barely stand. You want the gold to pay for a nursing home?" he sneered. But the old man didn't bow his head. "Money means nothing, kid. Basketball isn't this filth you're doing." Annoyed by the lecture, Jason Lee snapped. He grabbed the ball and with blind rage fired it like a cannon straight at the elderly man. "Then show me what you've got, old man." The crowd panicked, screaming for him to get out of the way. That hit would be fatal. The old man froze, terror on his face as the ball flew like a missile, but in the final split second, a miracle happened. A blur appeared out of nowhere and stopped the ball with a single hand, blocking the strike that would have crushed the man's face. The old man stood frozen, not understanding how he was still alive. It was our hero. Mask on, posture firm, he stepped into the game and shut down the circus. The stadium exploded. At last, someone with the aura of a true rival had shown up to challenge the invincible. The commentator lost it. "The surprises don't stop. Who is this masked man who stopped Jason Lee's shot?" Up in the stands, Shinran nearly dropped his phone. He recognized that style instantly. It was Yeyu. "You idiot, what are you doing down there?" the blonde yelled, terrified for his friend's life.
Ignoring the chaos, J.U. calmly handed the ball to the old man and said, "Rest, master. From here on out, I've got it." Silence fell. At center court, just the two of them, Jason Lee and the masked man. Behind the black mask, J.U. held a steel-hard stare, burning into his opponent. Without ceremony, he asked if the undefeated had the guts for a real duel. Jason Lee flashed a macabre smile. After crushing pros, he figured that runt would be a quick snack. No talk. He activated kinetic energy, his body glowing an unnatural blue, and lunged like a starving animal. Jason jumped, trying to crush J.U. and reclaim the ball in midair with full force, screaming in the kid's face to show who ruled the court. The final clash had begun. Jason Lee went for the kill. He rose for a monstrous dunk, shouting that J.U. wouldn't get past him. For a split second, our hero felt the monster's weight. Fear hit and he froze. Just for a blink, J.U. snapped back with insane reflexes and clamped the ball hard. He shot across the asphalt, eyes on fire. With agility that defied physics, J.U. left the foreigner behind and sliced through the defense. Jason Lee nearly had a stroke from rage, snarling with bared teeth, his eyes glowing a vicious purple as he tried to recover. Too late. J.U. took off, cocked his arm, and released the ball with surgical precision. The net snapped, point for the masked man. J.U. hung on the rim for a moment before dropping down, while Jason Lee flew past, attempting a block that no longer mattered. The hero landed solid, ready for the next play, never letting his guard down. The stadium erupted. Jason Lee, who had owned the world until then, stood frozen, mouth open, unable to process his first loss of the day. The commentator went wild. "What madness is this? The masked man moved like lightning and devoured the invincible." The host piled on, saying J.U.'s steps were like an unstoppable storm. As J.U. shredded Jason's defense again, his mind drifted back a month earlier. The scene was very different. He was at home, training the same moves when his mother interrupted him. "What are you up to now, kid?" she asked, still half asleep. J.U. listened to the usual reminder not to forget his meds. He pointed to the table covered in pills and said he'd already taken everything. That day, he felt strangely confident, like he was going to win whatever came his way.
His mother was heading out for a 2-week business trip. As she put on her shoes, she fired off a machine gun burst of advice. "Eat properly, no junk food. If you run out of money, tell me. Study even during recess, and don't stay glued to the TV." But the final warning was the most serious. "Don't overdo it with sports, J.U." He agreed, just wanting to see what was in the fridge. When he remembered to ask for one more thing, the door had already slammed shut. She was gone. The door closed behind her. J.U. put on his uniform and headed to school, but first he checked the time. There was still time to grab a drink.
As he crossed the noisy streets, he spotted a huge banner announcing the grand opening of Bang's Basketball City. The kid freaked out. His dream was to see the stars play there, but getting a ticket was almost a miracle. He stopped at a corner shop to quench his thirst. The owner, a solid guy who lived in a wheelchair, greeted him warmly. Curious, the shopkeeper asked how things were going and gave him a reminder. "And school, how's that going?" The owner said the cans were up top on the highest shelf. The boy started sweating, stretching his arm to the limit and complaining about the absurd height. He reached it, but the can slipped and fell toward disaster. The vendor didn't hesitate. He spun his wheelchair wheels at a crazy speed and lunged forward to save it. Ju, with cat-like reflexes, grabbed the can at the last millimeter before it hit the floor. But what happened next froze his brain. The vendor reached toward the can. Out of nowhere, the man's arms swelled with muscle and began glowing a deep blue, releasing spirals of energy that wrapped around the drink. Ju stood frozen, jaw dropped, watching the impossible. Using surreal power, the man made the can float. Without touching it, he guided it through the air back to the top shelf. The drink landed perfectly, leaving a trail of blue light behind and continuing to spin on its own, wrapped in crackling sparks. Ju was speechless. His world flipped upside down in that moment. On the way back, the image wouldn't leave his head, muscles acting like springs and energy twisting into a brutal spiral. He'd heard of spiral energy, but seeing it live changed everything. Right then, his dream took on a new goal: to master that technique and blend it into his own style of play. To be a monster in basketball and not just another face in the crowd, you have to master offense and defense like your life depends on it. Ju arrived at the court and immediately got called out by a friend for being late, but he didn't back down. "I'm early. You guys just showed up too fast." Another teammate cut in, saying warm-ups had started a while ago. Shinran, the group's leader, laid it out straight. "Play your game, read them, and stay focused." Mid-strategy, the rival crew showed up. They came in barking, asking if Ju's team missed getting embarrassed. Their leader, a blue-haired guy with a nasty look, threw out a threat. "If you lose today, you never step on this court again. You're done here forever." Shinran didn't flinch. "How does a scrub like you have so much attitude?" he shot back, reminding him the court was public and no one owned it. Blue Hair snorted, crossed his arms, and made a lame excuse, saying they only lost last time because they were sabotaged. Tension spiked as the two leaders went face to face, and Shinran told him to shut up and play. Ju stepped in to organize the mess. He tried to talk rules for 3-on-3 and suggested a coin toss to decide who started, but the rival was clueless. "Coin toss my ass," Blue Hair shouted, taking off and stealing possession by force. Shinran cursed the cheater, but didn't freeze. The guy was already charging the basket, thinking it would be easy. He didn't count on Shinran's speed. Shinran appeared in front of him like he'd teleported. The arrogant guy nearly choked. How is this bastard so fast? With no option, the rival leader threw a desperate pass to his blonde teammate. Ju reached out to intercept, but the opponent jumped insanely high and launched the shot from deep. Ju read it instantly. He jumped too high, but his aim's off. He yelled to the team that it would hit the rim and the rebound was the priority. Just like that, the ball clanged off the iron and kicked out. Shinran and Blue Hair launched together, battling midair for control of the court. The kid in the cap was stunned. He was sure that shot would go in, but couldn't understand how the nerd had predicted the miss so precisely. Shinran, full of swagger, sent the message: "Starting the game means nothing if you can't finish." Now the game was about to turn. Shinran burst into the attack like lightning. The rival team tried to trap Ju, locking him down and stopping him from helping the play. But the chemistry between the friends was strong. Ju received the ball in a flash, and before anyone could even think about a steal, he snapped it back with master-level precision to his best friend.
With the ball in his hands and a smile on his face, Shinran accepted the gift and charged forward. "You want to win? Then try to catch me first," he taunted. The blonde took off, challenged the defense, and slammed the ball down with force. Since the point was theirs, possession stayed with them. It was time to crush the opponent. The mood darkened for the cap-wearing team. They could smell defeat, and what bothered them most was that boy with the sharp, analytical stare. The rival figured it out. Ju was the brain, but he had a weakness. His stamina was low, and he was already starting to gasp. Their strategy changed instantly.
Forget the nerd, he's useless now. Focus on Shinran and the other guy, the rival leader ordered. They set heavy pressure on the most active players, assuming Jayu would be nothing more than a tired extra on the court. That's when their mistake became the hero's advantage. Jayu realized he was wide open and knew it was the perfect moment. He closed his eyes for a second and remembered what he had seen at his uncle's shop. That spiral energy, a movement that defied logic. He started calculating everything in his head. He needed to rotate his arm inward, transferring all the power from his shoulders straight to his fingertips. It was time to test the technique he had named himself, the hurricane shot. The opponent started laughing, shouting that he was crazy for trying a shot from such an absurd distance. Jayu didn't even blink. He ignored the noise, coiled his body like a spring, and unleashed the shot, making the ball spin violently through the air. Jayu fired the ball with the fury of a raging wind. The play was so bizarre that even Shinran froze, watching the air twist wildly around the ball. His teammate looked like a different person, possessed by blind confidence that the move would work. The ball picked up insane speed, forming a true tornado of light in the middle of the court. The rivals turned pale, losing their breath as they realized they had underestimated the short kid too soon. The trajectory was beautiful, leaving a glowing trail in the air, but fate was cruel. At the critical moment, the technique failed hard. The shot came out so crooked that instead of hitting the net, the ball dropped gently straight into an opponent's arms. The court went silent for a second in pure shock before the humiliation began. The other team burst at laughing. Laughter echoed everywhere, mocking the magic attempt that turned into a complete disaster. One of Jayu's teammates snapped, clicked his tongue, wiped sweat angrily, and complained that the golden chance had been wasted. He yelled at the kid to stop trying fancy stuff and focus on passing the ball if he wanted to be the team's strategist. Jayu shrank back, head down and chest tight with embarrassment. He could only mutter that he was trying to help. Before the sadness took over, Shinran stepped in, grabbed his friend by the collar, and pulled him away from that negative energy.
Man, that was insane, Shinran said, trying to lift his teammates' spirits. He swore the move looked straight out of Dragon Ball, and that the rivals almost freaked out from fear. The mood improved a bit when the blonde promised that next time, they'd run them over and take the win. But the other team didn't let up. The guy in the cap, ball already in hand, mocked them, asking if they were going to give up points mid-game. He sprinted into a fast break, thinking the lane was clear, not noticing someone right on his tail. The game didn't stop for regrets. Despite Shinran's teammates' effort, the cap-wearing team scored again and extended the lead. Jayu didn't give up. Surrounded by enemies, he pulled off a miraculous steal and fed his friend with a perfect pass. Shinran shot forward like a missile, but the blue-haired leader planted himself in front of him, blocking the path with brute force. With a sharp move, the brute stole possession and scored again, hanging on the rim and mocking the weaklings. He taunted them, saying Jayu's team hadn't even woken up yet and that the humiliation was almost over, adding that they could still quit and save themselves the embarrassment. Shinran, a master at getting under people's skin, fired back with a sharp smile, making the opponent boil with rage and call him an ungrateful monster. The blonde was locked in. Only 1 point stood between him and glory, and he could smell victory in the air. The ball went back to the rivals. Shinran shouted for Jayu to lock it down and let no one through. The hero gave everything on defense, but the cap-wearing guy was clever and lobbed a high pass to a teammate. That was the opening Shinran needed. He took off mid-play, intercepted the ball in the air, and signaled the attack. Go now! Go, go, go! The blue hair, desperate, chased Shinran like a madman, while the cap-wearing teammate screamed for him to shut up and stop the blonde at all costs, shouting that they couldn't lose to these guys. In the middle of the run, a massive red-haired player jumped in front of Shinran, cutting him off completely. Shinran froze. The plan had fallen apart, and he knew brute force wouldn't break through that wall. With no other option, he yelled and threw the ball to Jayu, telling him it was all on him now. Jayu felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. The earlier mistake still burned, but now it was do or die. He decided to use both hands to ensure accuracy. His focus sharpened completely. Suddenly, spirals of energy began to coil around his body again, the spiral aura awakening at full power. He raised the ball above his head, feeling the wind spin fiercely under his control. This was it. But at the peak of his focus, fate played a cruel trick.
The chronic pain in his chest, the heart condition that had always haunted him, tore through his lungs again.
His vision blurred, the air vanished, but pride spoke louder. Jayu ignored the agony and used his last breath of energy to leap toward the sky. Blue Hair came charging in for the block, shouting whether he was really going to try a sneaky shot, determined to crush the hero before the ball could leave his hands. The rival leader showed no mercy. He planted himself like a concrete wall in front of Jayu, shutting down the play with a twisted smile. He mocked the kid, asking if he really thought he could pull off that trick again, while one of his goons ripped the ball away with brute force. The dirty play didn't stop there. In the chaos, Jayu was hit so hard he lost his balance. The world spun. He crashed backward, his glasses flying off as searing pain took over. Trapped under the opponent's manic stare, the boy shut his eyes and screamed in pure terror, surrendering to the impact. Seeing the disaster unfold, Shinran panicked. He ran like a madman, ignoring his own safety, screaming his friend's name in total desperation. He dove in to cushion Jayu's fall, but fate was cruel. The two slammed into the ground together. The court filled with the rival team's laughter as they called Jayu dead weight and useless. To make it worse, the other teammate didn't help at all. Instead, he started yelling at Jayu, blaming him for Shinran further wrecking an already broken arm while trying to save him. Shaking and barely able to see, Jayu picked up his glasses and begged his friend for forgiveness, crushed by the feeling that he had ruined everything. The winners, wearing venomous smiles, delivered their final message. It hurt just to look at them, and they should disappear and never think about stepping on a court again. Jayu's blood boiled. He wanted to explode, to scream at the injustice, but his breath betrayed him. Before he could say a word, the other teammate cut him off, telling him to forget pride. They needed to get Shinran to the hospital immediately. That was the breaking point. Under the weight of stress and humiliation, Jayu's lungs locked up. A violent asthma attack hit him head on. He clutched his chest, fighting for every scrap of air. When asked if he was okay, he lied in a dying voice, telling them to go ahead with Shinran while he dropped to his knees, defeated. The situation was desperate. Jayu needed his inhaler, but it had slipped from his pocket during the fall. As the blue-haired leader walked past him, he delivered one last poisonous line. Intelligence doesn't win games, and basketball isn't for weak people like him. Collapsed in the dirt, drained and barely conscious, Jayu crawled. Every inch felt like a mile. He stretched his fingers, cold sweat pouring, trying to reach the medicine just a few steps away, but his body no longer obeyed. He was at his limit, alone and out of air. The asthma was unbearable. Jayu collapsed fully, pressing his face against the cold asphalt. Beside him, an abandoned basketball was the only witness to his failure. The symbol of everything he loved now seemed to mock him. The sky broke into rain, washing the court and drowning his hopes.
He had no strength left to fight. Curled up, writhing in pain, his face soaked by tears and rain, his chest finally locked tight. In a flash of lightning, a silhouette appeared. A man wrapped in a dark cloak emerged from nowhere. The stranger crouched and spoke bluntly, saying Jayu's condition was pure disappointment. He offered a vial filled with a sinister liquid and said it was ancient, used 3,000 years ago to awaken powers humans don't even know they possess. With no way out, the boy drank it, and hell began. The kid's veins lit up an electric blue as he screamed in agony. The man warned that the effect depended on one's inner strength and told him to endure it. As Jayu screamed, another figure appeared in the shadows and was ordered to take the child away. The boy blacked out in the middle of the torment. As he slowly came to, he found himself staring at a massive, round, stained glass window. The place was bizarre, with huge green columns and a strange light pouring from the ceiling. Jayu thought he was trapped in a nightmare, or that he was dead. That's when he saw the old man. A figure with a long beard and white hair sat there in deep meditation. The old man's silence made Jayu uneasy. Before waking up there, he had seen a horrifying vision, dozens of red, demonic hands dragging him toward an abyss while he still wore his school uniform. He screamed and fought, but the hands grabbed his neck, choking him in a sea of claws. Jayu jolted awake, heart pounding. His first instinct was to reach for his inhaler, but he froze instantly. The asthma was gone.
His lungs were clear, breathing air he had never felt before. Moments ago, he had been in the dirt watching his friend get hurt, and now he was in this mystical place. He paused, forced himself to calm down, and focused on his breathing, trying to understand what kind of madness this was. The suffocating feeling vanished. Jae-yu took a breath, and for the first time in his life, his chest didn't wheeze. The air flowed clean and deep without any inhaler at all. But the real shock came next. He realized he wasn't wearing his glasses. Ever since he was a kid, his nearsightedness had been terrible. He couldn't see a thing up close, but now everything was crystal clear, like high definition. His vision was perfect, the anxiety was gone, and that chronic pain in his chest had simply vanished. He felt renewed, almost like a different person. That's when he noticed movement in the corner of the room and realized he wasn't alone in that temple of bizarre columns. Jae-yu shouted when he saw the figure. It looked like a Taoist sage straight out of an old movie. Thinking the white-haired old man was his savior, he stood up awkwardly, leaning on a column, and asked if he was the one who had rescued him. The place was insane. 5-meter-tall green columns didn't even touch the ceiling, as if they were floating or placed there for some purpose he couldn't grasp.
He tried calling the old man several times, but there was only silence. Jae-yu stepped closer, waved a hand in front of the sage's face, and asked where the exit was. He tried everything, speaking Japanese, Korean, and when he thought the old man might be dead because he wouldn't move, he reached out to check if the elder was still breathing. In that instant, the world stopped. In a blur that tore through the air, the old man vanished from in front of him and reappeared flying. Jae-yu barely lifted his head in time to see the sage's trail as he leapt with impossible agility, running along the walls up to the tops of the columns. Jae-yu stood there, jaw dropped, watching the gray-haired man glide through the air with supernatural lightness. The old man landed perfectly on top of a green column, looked down, and delivered his first line, calling Jae-yu a spoiled child. He said that at 120 years old, Jae-yu was still a baby and far too young to be thinking about death. Confused, Jae-yu asked if he could even understand him, and the master shut him down. Just because he was quiet didn't mean he was deaf. Jae-yu had no patience for philosophy. His brain was short-circuiting. He ignored the lecture and went straight to the point. How the hell had the old man jumped 5 meters into the air? His mind turned into a chalkboard full of equations. He calculated jump power, body mass, and impulse, and reached the only possible conclusion. It was physically impossible. "This breaks every law of physics," he shouted, grabbing his hair. Jae-yu started thinking the old man was made of straw, or that he himself was trapped in some insane dream. Panic hit, and his first reaction was pure modern instinct. He pulled out his phone to call for help. When he saw there was no signal, his world collapsed. Jae-yu dropped to his knees, yelling that he was lost and trapped with a lunatic in a place with no exit. The old man lost his patience. He grumbled that this useless generation couldn't even breathe without a phone in their hands. He pointed in a direction and said that if the kid wanted to leave, the door was right there. Jae-yu looked around, confused, and shouted that there was no door at all. "Look up, idiot," the master snapped. Jae-yu nearly strained his neck and saw a door embedded high above, almost touching the ceiling. He thought it was a joke. How was he supposed to get up there? The old man, calmly seated atop the column and stroking his beard, didn't care. If Jae-yu wanted to leave, he should climb up first. What was he waiting for? Jae-yu snapped. He yelled that this was kidnapping and demanded to be let go immediately. The sage answered coldly that the door was open and Jae-yu was just weak. Humans loved to brag, but when things got tough, they ran faster than the wind. Where was his courage? Furious, Jae-yu called the old man crazy and started feeling along the walls in desperation. He punched the stone, searched for secret passages, and complained about how absurdly solid the place was. In the end, with no exit and no signal, he started screaming for help into the void, while the old man watched in complete silence from his pedestal. Jae-yu's head felt like it was going to explode from all the yelling. He leaned on his knees, gasping, his lungs begging for mercy. When his breathing eased a little, he tried changing tactics. He looked up at the old man and suggested a deal, since it was clear he wouldn't get out on his own. He returned to the base of the column and tried talking again, but the master was like a statue.
Ji-yu insisted, warned that he'd rot there or have an asthma attack, but the master remained silent. Ji-yu looked up and did the math. Even if he climbed the column, there would still be a 4-meter gap to the door. It felt impossible. He touched the green marble. The surface was smooth as a mirror, without a single groove to grip. How was anyone supposed to climb that without gear? As his hand slid over the cold stone, his mind jumped back in time. He saw himself as a kid, standing in front of a massive tree. Back then, Shinran was already at the top, teasing him, saying he'd failed 10 times and that it was dangerous because of his asthma. But young Ji-yu wouldn't back down. He wanted to prove he could do it. In that memory, Shinran finally gave in and offered his shoulder to boost his friend up. The memory brought warmth to his chest and a confidence he hadn't felt in a long time. Ji-yu clenched his fists. This time he decided he would do it alone. He began scanning the column like an engineer. Making a rope out of his clothes was pointless. It wouldn't work. Then he noticed his shoes. The soles had insane grip. The plan came instantly, parkour style. He'd need a full sprint, build speed, jump, and use the friction of his sneakers against the marble to get 2 explosive pushes. He calculated the angle, the force, the run-up. It was his only shot. It would work. He was going to make it. Ji-yu backed off. The old man, high above, opened one eye and started watching with genuine interest. The kid took off. He let out a wild yell, putting his whole soul into his legs, and jumped. His first foot slammed into the marble, and he surged up more than a meter in a single burst. But on the second step, gravity collected its due. The strength vanished. His foot slipped and he lost control. Ji-yu plummeted from above and smashed flat on his back against the stone floor, a sharp crack echoing through the entire hall. The old man grimaced, feeling the pain of the fall just by looking. The master was sure the boy would beg to quit and give up on everything, but when he looked down, the surprise was even bigger. Ji-yu was still trying to move. The kid clenched his teeth, swallowing the groan of pain. He got it instantly. The jump angle was completely wrong, that's why it went to hell. But Ji-yu wasn't the type to give up. He got up, brushed off the dust, and charged again. He ran, jumped, planted his foot on the marble, but gravity yanked him down by the foot once more. Floor.
He turned into a punching bag machine. Jump, fall, faceplant, then get back up like he was made of rubber. After a nasty belly-first crash, the old man up top started to respect him. This kid's got grit. The master stayed quiet, just noting the progress, while Ji-yu wiped sweat and grime from his face, swearing the next one would be the winning jump. What the boy didn't know was that the sinister elixir was awakening sleeping monsters inside his cells. Ji-yu tried again, screamed as he started to fall, but refused to let go. He clawed at the smooth marble with his nails until his fingers bled, desperate to reach the top. That's when things went sideways. The potion detonated in his bloodstream. The veins in his face and neck bulged, glowing a terrifying electric blue. The old man's eyes went wide as he realized things had gone too far. Something is very wrong. In a split second, that skinny, scrawny kid turned into a human war tank, muscles ripping through skin as power took over. The sage leapt down from the column in shock, watching Ji-yu fall like a blue meteor. But before he hit the ground, survival instinct kicked in. Mid-fall, he shot out an arm and lunged for the column. The impact was so brutal, his fingers crushed the marble like paper. Hanging by one hand with strength that didn't belong in this world, Ji-yu avoided disaster. The old man stood below, frozen, staring up with his mind racing. He realized that mutation was poison for the boy's mind. The pain was accelerating the potion's chemistry, and the power was about to wipe out what little consciousness Ji-yu had left. The kid lost it. His expression twisted into a nightmare, and the glow in his eyes turned into pure animal rage. Driven by a savage instinct, he snarled through clenched teeth. Down below, the master watched anxiously, but Ji-yu locked onto him. Completely out of his mind from that mystical mix, the young man had a bizarre hallucination. He saw the old man as if he were a basketball. Forgetting any plan, Ji-yu lunged hard to grab the ball. The veteran took a moment to realize that in the kid's warped mind, his own head was the prize. Startled, the master reacted fast. He saw the boy's body was an energy bomb about to blow and shouted that they had to tame that chaos.
No hesitation, he fired a straight strike into Jeyu's chest to force things back into line. The impact was brutal. Wrapped in red lightning of pure, uncontrolled power, the boy was blasted backward by the magical shove. As soon as he stabilized at the right distance, the elder pointed his fingers and unleashed a golden wave of healing. That was the first step of the fix. With precise touches to vital points, neck, throat, and chest, he began stitching the boy's soul back together. The master released a heavy enchantment. Yellow light engulfed Jeyu, forcing that insane power into a single channel. He ordered the boy to focus on the center of his body, where energy gathers. Little by little, consciousness returned. Jeyu groaned, feeling heat flood every inch of his skin. Dazed, he tried to understand what was happening, but the old man shut him up instantly, keeping him suspended in the air with one hand.
Breathe through your nose and focus deep in your soul, the master commanded. He taught the boy to feel the power coming from every drop of blood and every breath of air. The chaos in his veins finally settled. The sage insisted the boy had to own that power, not the other way around. He challenged Jeyu to do the impossible. With his eyes glowing an intense blue, the young man absorbed every instruction and let the air out, fully returning to the real world. Standing before the silent master, Jeyu was completely lost, unable to grasp how his life had changed so much in mere seconds. The shock hit hard when he stood up. The world felt smaller, and the reason was bizarre. He was looking down at the master. When he looked at his own hands, Jeyu saw arms packed with muscle, heavy and strong, nothing like before. Panic set in. He started touching himself, feeling his new face and solid body, unable to process how he had turned into a full-grown man overnight. Terror shone in his eyes at the sudden transformation. The master, calm as ever, explained the science behind the madness. He said the secret lay in the cells and in breathing. He explained that the human body has power plants called mitochondria, and that through air they produce ki, that mystical force that lets humans break nature's limits. The potion the boy swallowed didn't just supercharge his cells and speed up his growth, it unlocked the production of new cells through breathing alone. Before, his nerves were collapsing, vibrating out of control, but now it was time to tame that power. The old man decided to teach a harsh breathing regimen to reinforce the bones and stabilize all the energy shaking the young man's body. He told him to focus on the center of his soul and let the power flow freely. Jeyu didn't waste time. He mirrored every move of his mentor, spread his legs, stretched out his arms, and felt the game change. A calm, balanced aura wrapped around his new body. He was ready for the column challenge. The master warned that this power would make him light as a feather and fast as lightning. Jeyu clenched his teeth, focused every drop of energy, and launched himself. The result was absurd. He climbed the green marble column in a single jump, conquering the height on the first try. From the top, feet planted firmly, he looked at the master on the neighboring column and burst with joy. "I did it! This is unreal!" the young man shouted, thrilled by his own strength. The master, however, wasn't impressed and made a face like he didn't get it at all. He questioned whether the kid was really going to celebrate that much over a little hop. He reminded him that the real goal was reaching the exit door, and even pretended to doubt whether the boy had the grit for it. The master gave an ultimatum. "What is it? You already climbed once. There's just one more jump to freedom." The challenge lit a fire in the chest of the new man, who agreed instantly, determined to prove he could reach wherever he wanted. The boy took a deep breath, flexed his body, and locked eyes on the door embedded in the wall ahead. He told himself it was worth a try. In the next instant, he dropped all caution, let out an uncontrolled yell, clenched his fists, and hurled himself from the greenish marble column without a second thought.
In the air, he kept absolute focus. He stretched out his arm, trying to touch the wall, now dangerously close. It took only a second to realize the mistake. The distance was greater than it looked. With no chance of reaching the door, all that remained was to accept the fall. Back on the ground, he concluded that jump was impossible. Not even a specialist could pull that off. That was when the old man decided to step in. When the boy looked up and saw the master getting ready, he was sure he would never reach that level. Mid-jump, something changed. The elder's leg flared brightly, forming a luminous ring around his body. With an absurd burst, he gained height and reached the door with no apparent effort. The boy was stunned. It made no sense at all. In his logic, even using virtual particles, pushing them should generate force downward, not upward. The master had no patience. He called the boy hard-headed and explained that this was a technique used to climb clouds. The secret was releasing the particles at the right moment. When those particles reach their peak point, they can neutralize gravity, but only if one condition is met. The old man was blunt. It all starts with happiness. Truly happy memories make the brain release endorphins, and those are what awaken this hidden potential. The boy shot a lost look at the instructor, clearly not understanding. Even so, he tried to dig up the happiest memory he had. Little by little, everything around him lost importance. With that feeling growing in his chest, he returned to the column. He climbed lightly, reached halfway up, and pushed off again. The master noticed the detail. The boy used the side of the column as support, shortening the distance by moving diagonally. On the final jump, he stretched out his hand, keeping his focus only on that good feeling. His mind filled with memories, childhood, basketball games, laughter, and the time spent with his best friend, Sin Run. Everything that mattered came from there, but something failed. The boy's expression changed, the light faded from his eyes, and the connection broke. Trying to copy the master's movement, he got tangled up in his own body. Fear took over the moment he realized he wouldn't reach the door. Once again, the push was weak. He missed the wall and started to fall. Mid-descent, he forced his mind to search for happiness again. This time, he remembered his mother, walking together when he was little, how she let him have ice cream even while worried about his asthma. The feeling helped, but it was still fragile. As he held on to it, a scene appeared before his eyes. A family walking down the street. A child sitting on his father's shoulders tried to reach a balloon carried by the wind, while the father smiled and promised to buy another one. That scene stirred something in him. In a low voice, the boy asked his mother who his father was and when he would finally get to meet him. She stopped mid-step, knelt in front of him, and ran her hair through his head, asking him to pay attention. In silence, she pulled him to a hug and explained that his father had gone very far away, so far that they wouldn't see each other for a long time.
Later, already at home, curiosity wouldn't let go. The boy crawled under the bed searching for an old album, wanting at least to see his father's face. But what caught his attention wasn't the photos, but a large cardboard box forgotten there, covered in dust. He recognized it instantly. It was the box his mother always said never to open. That only made the urge stronger. Ignoring the warning, he dragged the box out and lifted the lid. Inside were only two things, a basketball and a note. It was a letter from his father. In it, he said he regretted not being there for his son's birth, confessed that he had always dreamed of holding him in his arms, and imagined the two of them spending every day together. That ball, the note explained, had been the first gift he ever bought for him. The boy held the ball for a long time. In his mind, he began to see himself on a court beside his father, passing the ball, laughing, playing together the way he had always wanted. The letter ended by saying that the father hoped, one day, to share that moment with his son. Clutching that gift tightly, tears slipped out. In that moment, his greatest wish became simple and clear, to play basketball with his father. When his body started falling again after another failed jump, he closed his eyes and held onto that memory with everything he had. That was when he truly understood what happiness was. When he opened his eyes, a smile spread across his face. A new strength flooded his body while he was still falling. A soft blue light began to wrap around him, as if something long lost had finally returned. He brought his legs together, tensed his muscles, and felt the energy swell. The blue aura intensified, growing brighter and brighter. With a firm motion, he pushed himself upward with a single leg, reversing the fall. This time, he reached the door with renewed force.
His body shot upward, nearly level with the small opening set into the wall above. He stretched out his hand, feeling he was too close to give up, yet still unable to touch it. Then an unexpected memory surfaced. His uncle, who worked in a shop, always making that strange arm movement. Without thinking too much, he decided to try the same thing. He spread his arms to the sides, like blades slicing through the air. The result was absurd. A true vortex of magical wind formed around him. The force was so strong that he ended up slamming his head against the wall, grimacing and letting out a short groan. Even the old sage watching was visibly surprised. Still dizzy, the boy brought one hand to his head and with the other managed to grab onto the doorframe. Hanging there, breathing hard, he used the last bit of strength he had to pull himself onto the ledge that would finally get him out of that situation. The elder knew the boy still hadn't fully mastered that sky-climbing technique. Even so, in that decisive moment, he noticed something different. The boy wasn't improvising out of desperation, but carving his own path. Seeing that, the boy flashed a confident smile and raised his thumb. For a moment, the old man almost believed he was standing before someone truly special.
Once everything settled, the young man knelt before the sage, gripped his hands firmly, and thanked him for the guidance. The response was cold. The old man made it clear he had never accepted him as a disciple. He told him to move on, but left one final warning: never stray from the pure purpose he carried within. Without arguing, the boy agreed. Confident, he stepped through the door ahead, believing he was finally leaving. As soon as he passed through, his eyes narrowed against an intense, almost unbearable heat and light. In that instant, he was sure it had to be the exit, but the triangular, glowing door felt wrong, too strange. The closer he got, the stronger that feeling became. He reached out and felt nearly unbearable heat, as if the surface itself were burning. Even so, he chose to move forward. The next step carried him somewhere completely unexpected. Before he could understand where he was, the door slammed shut violently behind him. The sound echoed through the space, revealing a chamber surrounded by magma on the floor. A chill ran through his body. Confused, he began scanning the area, searching for an exit. That was when something came at him too fast to react. He shouted, asking if anyone was there, and in the next second, a basketball smashed into his head with enough force to knock him to the ground. Holding his face, he erupted in anger, demanding to know who was doing that. The answer came as more basketballs hurled from the darkness. It was clear someone was hiding, attacking without showing themselves. The blows didn't let up. They were fast and precise, and he couldn't dodge a single one. The boy realized that just evading wouldn't solve anything. He needed to force the enemy to reveal themselves. That's when he remembered the master's words. Sometimes running isn't enough. You have to strike back. Determined, he activated his technique. Using the combination of the cloud and the thunder palm, he extended his hand and blocked the next attack. With the same motion, he sent the ball flying back toward where it came from. He shouted for the coward to stop hiding. The response was explosive. A flaming basketball shot back, finally revealing its owner. A man in a dark suit with long black hair stepped out of the shadows, holding a knife. With the blade, he pierced the ball mid-air, stopping the attack, and remarked with mild disdain that the old man had trained him well. Only then did he introduce himself, saying that this place was the Fire Observation Tower, and that he was its guardian. Confused, the boy questioned him. His master had said that door led outside. The man raised an eyebrow, surprised, and asked if the old man hadn't explained anything about that place. That was how the boy learned the truth. That place was the Tower of the Five Elements, and the sage who trained him was only the guardian of one of them. Worse still, the tower existed to refine his basketball skills, and he still had to pass through 4 more before he could get out. The Fire Tower Guardian confirmed everything. To reach the outside, every elemental tower had to be cleared. Without waiting for any reply, his expression hardened as he stared at the boy and warned that this was only the beginning of the test. Just before the trial truly began, the boy rushed forward to stop him. There was still something he needed to ask. He wanted to know if simply blocking the ball was enough to advance to the next stage. The answer came flat and cold. No. That was only the start. Hearing that,
A chill ran through his body. The Guardian then explained the real challenge. To pass, he would have to score on a hoop that never stopped moving, surrounded by flashing lights that made it hard to see. It was almost impossible to get a clear view. Even so, clenching his fists, the boy replied that it would be hard, but he was ready. Before he even finished speaking, a ball was already flying toward him. He reacted on instinct. He stretched out his hand, blocked the shot on the first try, and caught the ball. Without wasting time, he dashed forward. As he jumped, he thought about using the sky climbing technique he had learned in the previous tower, determined to reach the rim that way. It didn't work. Before he could complete the move, he was cut off. The ball smashed into his face with force, drawing a groan of pain. He lost control, dropped the ball, and slammed into the ground. Furious, he shouted at the Guardian, demanding to know what he was doing. Dazed, he tried to get up, staring at the man with anger and confusion. The Fire Tower Guardian simply snapped his fingers and explained, without emotion, that approaching the rim violated the rules of the trial.
Still on the ground, the boy asked why that hadn't been said earlier. In response, the man in the black suit hurled another flaming basketball at him, as if offering a new chance. Holding the ball, the boy took a deep breath and began studying the hoop carefully. He analyzed its movement, speed, and path, trying to predict where it would be at the moment of the shot. The plan was simple now. Use spiral energy, accelerate the ball with virtual particles, and trust the calculation. He threw. The ball, packed with wind and virtual energy, flew with precision. Everything suggested it would score on the first try, but halfway through its path, something happened. The ball was destroyed in midair, shattering before it reached the target. The boy froze. That wasn't his mistake. Once again, someone had interfered. The Guardian didn't hold back and revealed that he had never promised to play fair. With a cold look, he made it clear he would do whatever he wanted to test the boy. The protagonist shouted in shock, trying to understand where that weapon had come from. The man turned his head, showed a strange smile, and mocked him, asking why he didn't try to figure it out himself. Angry, the boy clenched his fist and told him to stop the games, reminding him that the use of weapons was forbidden in his kingdom. He wanted to argue more, but there was no time. 3 fireballs were launched at him. The Guardian ordered him to stop talking and act. With great effort, the boy managed to block one of them with his hand. To his own surprise, he began controlling the flaming basketball, spinning it between both hands. Little by little, he adapted to the rhythm of the Guardian's constant attacks. He converted the heat of the flames into wind energy, taking full control of the ball. Determined to end it, he loaded 3 basketballs at once and hurled them together at the moving hoop. Even so, it wasn't enough. With a simple gesture, the Fire Tower Guardian made all 3 balls explode in midair. Once again, everything was destroyed before even getting close to the target. The boy tensed and complained, saying it didn't matter how he threw, no ball could be faster than a shot. The Guardian calmly replied that on a basketball court, everything is decided in the exact instant of release, even if he still hadn't learned how to feel that moment. The man kept attacking, making it clear that the boy already knew how to control virtual particles, but couldn't activate them all the time. Each release lasted only a tiny fraction of a second. Because of that, any miscalculation ruined everything. It was absolute precision or failure. When the next ball was destroyed in midair, the boy had already concentrated wind energy in his hand. The Fire Guardian kept throwing non-stop, mixing attacks with cold advice. He said that even with virtual particles, without finding the perfect instant, it was all meaningless. According to him, like that, the boy wasn't much different from an ordinary player. Without relying on powers, Yu tried again. He rushed toward the hoop and threw with everything he had. This time, the ball skimmed past the rim. It missed by only a few centimeters. Even so, the Guardian stopped the play, but acknowledged the near hit. He said the boy had absurd potential. Hearing that, Yu believed the test was over. He thought he could finally leave, since the Guardian himself had admitted being impressed. When he asked if that meant he had passed, he received only a negative gesture with a finger. No, it was far from over. The tower's watcher decided to raise the level. He snapped his fingers, and the boy felt an immediate chill.
Looking around, he realized the man was snuffing out every flame in the area with simple flicks of his wrist. Fear grew when the Guardian announced that this would be the real test, and that it was only beginning. A new wave of fireballs was launched, as the man warned that the next challenge would take place in total darkness. According to him, only then would the boy reach true mastery. Yu panicked when he realized he could barely see anything. The conditions turned brutal. In complete blackness, he mistimed his reaction and took a direct hit to the chin. From then on, all he could do was raise his hands and try to protect himself, getting hit again and again. He missed absolutely everything. That was when the Guardian spoke again. He told him not to rely on his eyes. Instead, he needed to feel the air, sense the slightest changes around his body. That required his senses to go beyond sight. The boy listened carefully. He stood still for a moment, breathing deeply, mouth slightly open. Then he closed his eyes and released his power. The Guardian explained that activating the particles lasted only an instant, but that moment was enough to energize the body and awaken every cell. It granted perception beyond normal human limits, and he was right.
Even without seeing, Yu felt 3 balls approaching. One came straight on, another veered right, and the third cut left. His body reacted before thought. He caught one of them and, in the same motion, decided to use that technique again. Spiral energy kicked in. Spinning the ball, he kept his eyes closed and spread his arms to the sides. In the next instant, he grabbed the other 2 balls coming from the flanks. With the spiral motion applied to both, the boy prepared a double attack, releasing them almost at the same time while they were still just a few meters away. The ball passed dangerously close to the rim, but the Fire Tower Guardian didn't let it end that easily. Irritated by how fast the boy was adapting, he attacked again, destroying the balls mid-air and stating it still wasn't enough. The boy didn't flinch. He took a deep breath, flashed a confident smile, and made it clear it wasn't over yet. The Guardian didn't notice, but he had something extra saved up. When he tried to stop another attempt, it was already too late. The man only managed to turn his head in time to see the ball appear just centimeters from the hoop. There was no reaction fast enough. No shot followed. The ball touched the rim. That was the final point. The boy burst into celebration, shouting in victory. The Guardian wore an incredulous expression, trying to understand how it had happened. Proud, the young man remarked that he imagined how surprising it must have been and asked if he wanted the explanation. The man praised the feat and admitted that what intrigued him most was the disappearance of the third ball, the fastest one, thrown straight ahead. He realized the boy had spun that ball far in front of him at absurd speed, creating the illusion that it had stopped in mid-air. After that, he explained, the boy launched 2 more balls using spiral energy. The 2 vortices created by those throws accelerated the third ball, which had been the real target from the start. 3 balls were in the air, but only 1 mattered. The darkness helped hide everything. The Guardian realized there was more strategy involved and noted that the boy had also used the time it took him to reload his weapon. The young man confirmed it and added that fast as he was, the man would have destroyed the ball if he had the time. He explained that he had seen videos about weapons and knew the magazine held 17 rounds and took about half a second to reload. Hearing that, the Guardian began to applaud, saying no one had ever cleared the shooting tower's test that fast. As that happened, the bonfires around them began to relight. The fire tower shone once more. The boy raised his arms and celebrated. Releasing him, the Guardian wished him good luck in the next challenge.
Moving on, the young man saw a staircase and, at the end, a door with a wavy shape. He concluded it had to be the water tower. He climbed cautiously, peering along the way until he passed through the door. On the other side, he found a blue sky covered with clouds. The scene caught him off guard. The water tower wasn't what he expected. It looked like an old train station. There, a woman in the long coat stood still. Still trying to understand where he was, he called out to her, but she kept her back turned. Only then did she introduce herself as Ru Yun, the guardian of the water tower. She explained that to leave, he needed to catch the train. The boy cheered, thanked her quickly, and ran off, trying to reach the train as it began to depart. Before going, he waved goodbye.
The woman remained motionless, watching in silence. But the challenge was not that simple. Before reaching the train, something intercepted him. Intense pain struck when Ru Yun shoved him backward with her hand, charged with virtual particles. She began attacking without pause, using continuous strikes to block his advance. The boy tried to resist, but after so many impacts, he lost his balance. He slammed hard onto the ground and slid a long distance, stopping with his face against the stone path. The Guardian stayed alert, hands raised, ready to continue the fight. She could attack him at any moment. The boy understood quickly. That woman was on another level, stronger than the two previous Guardians combined. When the blow hit him, the sensation was absurd. Beyond the force, there was something different. Her movements were loose, fluid, almost as if her body followed the rhythm of the waves. Around them, aquatic shapes emerged and collided like creatures from the ocean depths. He tried to ignore it. The focus was moving forward. He burst ahead, determined to use the sky climbing technique, leaping over everything. In midair, he passed right by the head of the water tower's guardian. He was close. The roof of the train was just a step away, but Ru Yun noticed before he even touched the surface. Without hesitation, she intercepted the move. Her palm struck the boy's shoulder, and she scolded him, saying his movements were too rigid. Then, a sharp blow to the chest nearly made him lose consciousness. She stated that besides being stiff, his attacks had no flexibility. As she spoke, she kept provoking him, attacking non-stop. The boy could only endure. Even in pain, he tried to break free from the Guardian's control. In response, she began using both hands, striking his neck repeatedly. There was no room for a counterattack. All that remained was to endure. Clenching her teeth, she continued instructing him. She told him not to interfere, not to argue, not to judge. Just let go. Let the flow move. Raising her palms, she began to gather energy for another attack.